My husband let me open our marriage and then disappeared after I did, leaving me with nothing. My name is Emma, and the love of my life is Oliver. We have been friends for nearly 7 years, and in love for over 4 years. Oliver is my dream partner, kind, attractive, and financially stable with a good income from his job. He has been a dedicated worker since the age of 15 and has no regrets about it. He is a real man who enjoys working hard to provide for a family. He grew up by the sea while I come from the capital city. We got married 2 years after we met, only a month after experiencing our first love at the age of 19. Came from the capital. We got married 2 years after we met, just a month after experiencing our first love at the age of 19. My parents were supportive, but his family was not thrilled about our arrangement. At first, they accused me of trapping him into marriage. Even though I was a virgin and had no children, it is hard to understand how they could see it as a trap. I also worked hard, starting at a hotel reception desk when I was 17. On the other hand, Oliver has had one previous relationship, maybe two, but he only admits to one. Oliver and I have been in love and married for almost 4 years, and we are all very happy. I cook and clean for him, and am eager to fulfill any of his desires. In our intimate moments, I never refuse. And we both find immense happiness in each other. He is my ultimate desire in every way, and I would not ask for anything more now. This is where complications come into the picture. I have been working at the hotel since the very beginning with a man named Doran. Doran, who is 32 years old, handles maintenance and janitorial tasks for the hotel. Let me make this crystal clear right now, for anyone out there. I have absolutely no romantic desires or attraction to Doran. Doran is simply a kind-hearted person who has gone through a bad experience. He has a wife who cheated on him and left him. He took his son with him. Through a paternity blood test, it was revealed that the son is not biologically his, exposing the affair and implicating another man as the father. Doran, who is not only my friend but also beloved by all our colleagues at the hotel, was in deep despair after this heartbreaking episode. After this heartbreaking episode, he did not want to go on with his life and even took days off from work, something he had never done in his 13 years at the hotel, never missing a single day until this ordeal that I was extremely concerned about. My friend and Keo employee to build his confidence. I started talking to him at work and insisted that we have lunch together every day with other employees in the break room or outside at tables. Doran feels that he has lost his masculinity because of what his estranged wife has done to him. He believes that no woman will ever want him again, which causes him immense anguish. I told Doran that this is not true at all. I firmly believe that any woman would be lucky to have him as a partner. He is a kind, gentle, good provider, and a loving father to his children. He is a kind, gentle, good provider, and a loving father to his son. I'll tell you more about that part of the story later. Talking to Doran over the past few weeks has given me an idea. I thought I could help him regain his sense of masculinity and at the same time explore a relationship with another man, something I had never done before except with my beloved Oliver. After we finished dinner and cleaned up, I sat down with Oliver for our discussion. I shared my thoughts and suggestions with him. His response was to burst out laughing and give me a crazy, incredulous smile. He thought I was joking about all of this. I assured him I was joking and explained why I believed this to be true. Oliver became quite upset and stormed off, slamming the bedroom door, but he did not lock it, and I knew what he wanted to do to show my love and commitment. I took off all my clothes and entered the bedroom. He can never resist me, as I can never resist him. Even after 4 long years, I gave him everything he loves, and we fell asleep together in love and happiness, as we always do. I waited a day before I went back to Oliver and asked him if he had thought about it and if he would give his blessing again. I acknowledged his stance with an okay and sat next to him to watch a movie. Eventually, I offered him a treat, and we spent the night together on the couch, still deeply in love. During this time, I noticed that Oliver was distant and preoccupied. With something other than our intimate moments or the delicious meals I prepared. He often talked on the phone outside our apartment or in a hushed tone in the guest room. My suspicions were aroused, but there was nothing obvious. Days passed, and it was now Sunday. After attending religious services, Oliver planned to go to the seaside for a 4-day trip with his family. They had an annual tradition of fishing during this time, which I had no problem with. I understood that he needed his male bonding time to maintain his masculine qualities and strength before leaving on his trip. I brought up my suggestion again. Oliver seemed frustrated, but replied, "Emma, you are an adult, and I can't force you into anything. If you want to be with another man, I can't stop you. I have already expressed my feelings on this." I hugged him, kissed him, and thanked him for his understanding. But he looked at me with a look of disapproval. I hugged him, kissed him, and thanked him for his understanding. But he looked at me strangely before he got into his car and drove away. Before Oliver left, he advised me to remember what he had told me. I expressed my love for him and continued to send him affectionate messages and texts. That night, the next day during lunch, I met with Doran and shared my proposal with him. He was completely surprised and hadn't expected this at all. He initially refused, stating that he couldn't have a relationship with a married woman. I explained that my husband did not approve but allowed it, and that this was what I wanted. Doran pondered my proposal all Monday night, unable to sleep, and when we met on Tuesday, he agreed to it on the condition that both my husband and I were comfortable with it, emphasizing that there would be no emotional involvement, only the physical act. It was a cozy little house, and we had the encounter using protection, and there was no kissing or intimate gestures, just some physical contact in the act itself. It seemed to satisfy Doran quickly. For me, it was just about putting an end to my curiosity. It was not a memorable experience, and had no meaning to me other than checking off a box. That evening, I sent a text message to my beloved Oliver informing him that everything had gone smoothly. I assured him that Doran's self-esteem had been restored, and I thanked him for his kindness and for his kindness. I emphasized that I would never be with another man, only him. My dear Oliver, it is crucial to understand that this was a purely physical encounter with the use of protection, devoid of any emotional connection or love, unlike the intimate moments I share with Oliver. Let me clarify this for everyone out there. I chose to text Oliver because I was worried about his reaction, and he did not respond that night. I spent a sleepless night filled with worry. Thankfully, the next morning he texted back and said he would be returning home on Sunday. The next day, Doran and I had lunch together, and he expressed his gratitude for the session and for helping him regain his confidence and sense of self. He also shared that the court had granted him 50% custody of his son, even though he was not the biological father. I celebrated this news with him and explained that now that our purpose had been fulfilled, we didn't need to do anything. He thanked me for my understanding and assured me that he was not a deceitful person. During this time, I continued to send loving texts and intimate photos of myself to my dear Oliver. But his boat had poor service, so his replies were few and mostly expressed his anticipation of seeing me on Saturday. I was filled with excitement and love and eagerly awaited his return. But unfortunately, this story takes a painful turn on Friday after a long day of work. I was overwhelmed with tears of disbelief, knowing that this decision was not his own, but influenced by his family's disapproval of me. Oliver would never willingly do such a thing. He had taken away all the furniture, silverware, cups, glasses, and linens, leaving only a single set of our king-size bed. Size bed was replaced with a small twin bed, apparently from his nephew's room. He left me with a small television and a chair. In addition, he took all the kitchen appliances, but left me with only a saucepan and a frying pan. He even provided paper plates, PL plastic utensils, paper cups, and basic necessities like toilet paper and paper towels. My only possessions left were my clothes, toiletries, and makeup. I tried to call Oliver, but I discovered that he had blocked my number. When I reached out to his mother and sister, I found that they had blocked me as well, as had his father and brother. It seemed that he had initiated this process shortly after I shared my proposal with him, which felt like a desperate move. I can't believe what is happening. I then read the letter included in the divorce agreement that instructed me to conduct all correspondence and conversations through the attorney with no direct contact with my husband. At the end of the day, I decided to call the lawyer to understand what was happening and how I was going to survive. I explained that I could not afford to pay for this apartment on my own, and the lawyer informed me that Oliver had paid the rent, including basic utilities, for the remaining 3 months of our lease. The lawyer also mentioned that when the lease expired, Oliver had canceled it, so if I wanted to stay, I would have to renew it with the landlord. I wonder how I can manage to stay when I can barely afford it. Is this any way for a man to treat a woman? The love of his life, and a woman who gave him everything from love in various forms to cooking, cleaning, and running all the errands Oliver always had to ask, and he would get whatever he wanted. Now I am on the edge. I could not sleep that night. And the next day I decided to visit Oliver at his place of work. I was informed that he had taken a job on the coast and specifically asked for a job. He is a skilled concrete worker, one of the best, especially for someone so young. I asked the foreman to let him know that I was there and that I loved him, and he said he would pass on the message. I confided in a friend and coworker about everything, and she couldn't believe my actions. She is the one who suggested the idea in the first place. When I questioned her about it, she said, "I mentioned it, but I never thought you would actually go through with it. It was just crazy girl talk." The next day I took the bus to the seaport. Since I don't drive, I went to my in-laws' house, and although I wasn't there, I was able to get a ride to the seaport. I explained the misunderstanding and how I love Oliver deeply and eternally. They were kind, but Oliver's mother told me that he didn't want to see me again and suggested that I would be asked if I never contacted him. I expressed my inability to do that because he is my whole world. Oliver was working 100 kilometers away, and his family did not welcome me to stay with them. So I had to take the bus back to my empty apartment. I cried the whole way and continued to cry all night. I even had to take some time off work the next day to collect myself. Now I need your help with my question: how can I win back my husband's love and mend this misunderstanding? Please, I am not looking for judgment or criticism, as I have already received plenty of that in a previous post without any helpful suggestions or actions. All I am looking for are practical steps to win back my man, the love of my life, because I cannot go on like this. Your help is greatly appreciated. Update 1. Let me address some questions from this group. Yes, I believe in God and the sanctity of marriage. Do you know I have not been unfaithful to my loving husband, and I would never engage in such behavior. It is quite audacious to even suggest that. Yes, I consider myself a good girl. How many? 24. Year I can answer that for you. None, unless they are nuns. No. I have no intention of having any kind of relationship with DOR and beyond being a coworker. What I did for him came from the kindness of my heart. I am proud to have helped him, and it is ultimately up to God to judge me, not any of you. Know I will never be with another man in the future. Perhaps you should ask these questions of your own significant other. Why not? Why not? Because you don't want to hear the truth? No. I have not belittled or disrespected Oliver. You have not met my husband, so you cannot judge his manhood. I know he is more of a man than anyone here. No, I have not revealed the situation to my parents or other family members, but I am confident that they would be members. But I'm sure they would be proud of their daughter for doing the right thing and selflessly helping people. No, I have no interest in engaging in latex sessions with any other individuals in this group. Many of you seem to have bitter attitudes. Update 2. Well, I have to provide another update, and it is quite an unfortunate situation. It has been a whole month since I have been without my husband, and I feel completely empty and heartbroken. I have made every effort to contact him, but there has been no response. I have even resorted to calling him from other people's phones and leaving heartfelt messages, but it is not working. I even went so far as to have Doran call Oliver and leave him a message thanking him for his act of kindness and how it saved Doran from a life of misery. Doran told Oliver that he saw him as a great man and would forever be indebted to him for his actions, emphasizing that there was no love or interest between me and Emma. We were just colleagues. However, Oliver did not respond to any of this. I decided to confide in my parents and brother about my divorce, but their reaction was the same. about my divorce, but their reaction has been far from what I expected. They are very angry with me and cannot see the good deed I have done, focusing only on the perceived infidelity. No matter how much I try to convince them that it was not cheating, but a selfless act, they remain unconvinced and express disgust towards me. They have even suggested that I go to confession every day for the next year. I believe that in the end it is up to God to judge me, not the people on this earth, including my own family. Last update. Okay, I didn't want to return to this troublesome post, but some kind-hearted people have asked for an update. I really wish I could block all those bitter individuals in the comments anyway. Let me fill you in on my current situation. I am now living in our community hostel because my lease has expired and I do not have the financial means to afford rent in the capital. It is a decent place, but it is only a temporary solution. I could have stayed with my parents, but I chose not to because they do not understand my perspective. Perspective now about the divorce. It's official. It might be the fastest divorce in our country's history, which seems to be my luck, but at least I have faith in God to support me. The judge seemed quite traditional and didn't seem to have much regard for women in today's world. He saw my proposal as nothing more than cheating and disregarded the fact that I had helped and regained his life. He simply stated, you can call it whatever you want, but it's cheating and a violation of the law. I tried to explain that my husband had given me permission, but when he asked my husband and his attorney, they both denied it, saying, "No, Your Honor, he did not." What Oliver told Emma was, "You are a grown woman, and I cannot stop you from doing anything." He then added that he had previously warned Emma that he would divorce her if she went through with it. The judge turned to me, and I conferred with my attorney, who confirmed yes, Oliver had told Emma that he would divorce her if she went through with it, who confirmed that yes, Oliver did tell Emma, and it is a truthful statement. The judge then asked, "Why did you continue your affair knowing this?" My legal representative and I were caught off guard and did not answer. The judge then said we did not have to answer the question because it was irrelevant to the outcome. He then granted Oliver the divorce, officially ending the marriage. As part of the ruling, he awarded me the equivalent of $6,000, about $7,000, which Oliver had to pay within 90 days. Can you believe it? Only €6,000 for 4 years of various forms of intimacy, cooking, cleaning, running errands, and taking care of this man when he was sick. If I had done these jobs instead, it would have been over €200,000. Do I think I should have received €200,000 from Oliver? No, I don't, but only €6,000. This is my last post here, because I will not continue to argue with the unfriendly individuals in the comment section. I am simply exhausted and you are all unpleasant people. Instead, I will invest all my time and energy into winning Oliver back over the next year. I left him a message on his phone, letting him know that I will not be going on any dates for at least a year, maybe indefinitely, as I will be patiently waiting for him to return. I told him that he was welcome to come to my new apartment anytime for any kind of affection, and I gave him my new address. I believe that one day I will hear a knock at my door, and there will be my dream boat Oliver, standing there ready to embrace me with kisses, and we will live our lives happily ever after, maybe with many children. Merry Christmas to all of you out there, and I send God's best wishes to all of you. Even those who don't like me and don't like themselves. All right, that was a fun story. Now, let's move on to another exciting one. Stay tuned. And let's dive in. This incident happened more than 5 years ago, and I still haven't fully healed emotionally. I was 31 years old, and my girlfriend Lisa was 29. We had been in a loving, monogamous relationship for 3 years, or so I thought. We met at a cocktail reception at a local art museum. Ironically, neither of us was a fan of modern art, but we were both there with friends, and we hit it off right away. We started dating casually and soon decided to be exclusive. After about a year of dating, Lisa brought up the idea of moving in together, as she was eager to take our relationship to the next level. I was hesitant at first, expressing that I wasn't quite ready for that step, so we continued to live separately, but we spent at least 6 nights a week together, and our love for each other continued to deepen over the next year. Lisa continued to gently nudge me to take the next step, and finally, on our second anniversary, I reluctantly agreed, and we moved in together. Everything seemed to be going wonderfully, And even though we had been together for over 2 years at that point, our intimacy in the bedroom was growing. Lisa began to drop hints about marriage and starting a family. I let her know that I could see that future with her, but that I wanted us to use this time living together to evaluate if we were really ready to take that next step. About 3 months into our living together, I received a shock. Lisa called me. Received quite a shock. Lisa called me at work to tell me that she had missed her period and might be pregnant. This took me by surprise, since she had been taking birth control pills. She assured me that she had not missed a single dose, so I chalked it up to the small chance of contraceptive failure, which is about 9%. After ending the call with Lisa, I went through a whirlwind of emotions ranging from fear to excitement. But the more I thought about it, the more joy I felt at the idea of becoming a father. I drove home that night overjoyed, and when I got home I hugged and kissed Lisa, expressing my excitement, which made her equally happy. That as the weeks passed, Lisa began to inquire about our marriage plans. She understood, but continued to bring up the subject several times a week, emphasizing how much she wanted to be my wife and spend her life with me. Over the next few months, we devoted our time to preparing for our child, transforming our spare bedroom into a first-class nursery. Our lives were going so smoothly that during Lisa's 7th month of pregnancy, I took the opportunity to make a heartfelt proposal. I got down on one knee and Lisa joyfully exclaimed, "Yes, yes, yes, I will marry you." John, we were both overjoyed. I suggested we have a civil ceremony at the mayor's office the following month, followed by a reception after the baby's birth, and she enthusiastically agreed. We had a wedding date set, but just a few days before the ceremony, our baby had other plans, and Lisa went into labor. We rushed to the hospital at 4 a.m., and by 9 a.m., I was by Lisa's side in the delivery room, assisting with the birth. Although the delivery went relatively smoothly, I could not help but notice that the baby did not resemble me. He had jet black hair, a deep brown complexion, and appeared to be of Hispanic descent. Both Lisa and I, along with our extended families, are of Northern European descent. With light hair and fair skin, no one in either of our families has Hispanic heritage. As the baby was placed in Lisa's arms, I looked at her face, and despite her best efforts to appear composed, I could sense her shock at the baby's appearance. Tears welled up in my eyes as I cradled the baby and felt an overwhelming sadness knowing that he was not biologically mine despite my emotions. I handed him back to Lisa and mentioned that I was going out to inform our parents of the exciting news. I went out to the waiting room and shared the news with them. They all went in to see Lisa and the baby while I explained that I needed to take a short walk to calm my nerves. After all the excitement, I walked over to a small park area by a stream that ran through the hospital grounds, and there I broke down in tears. My world felt like it was crumbling around me. I knew that today I was going to lose both my future wife and the baby that I had hoped for so much. I spent about 30 minutes crying my heart out, and then my phone rang. It was my mom. She asked how I was doing, and I replied, "I think so." I confided in Mom the baby is not mine. Her response was comforting. "Son, I know, and I will stand by you no matter what decision you make." With that assurance, I regained my composure, went to the bathroom to freshen up, and upon returning to the room, only to find Lisa, her parents, and the baby in the room. The baby had been taken to the nursery, and Lisa was understandably exhausted from the birth. I suggested that we all give Lisa some much-needed rest. As we left the room, Lisa asked if I could stay with her, but I gently replied, "Babe, it's best for you to rest." Without talking, we all went to the cafeteria and spent a few hours there while Lisa rested. When I returned upstairs, I allowed her parents to check on her first after spending about half an hour with her. They relayed that Lisa wanted me to be with her. Lisa wanted me to be with her. So I went in to comfort her. Lisa began to talk, expressing her happiness, and asked if I was happy too. I reassured her that I was thrilled that both she and the baby were healthy. Concerned, she observed, "You seem distant. Is something wrong? I replied, we need to talk. She inquired, talk about what? To which I replied, the baby. Confused, she asked, what about the baby? That is when I revealed Lisa, the baby is clearly not mine. She reacted defensively, stating, it is your baby. Who else would it be? I challenged her, saying, you tell me her. The response was tearful sobbing, and I allowed her to cry for what seemed like an eternity, but was actually closer to 10 minutes. After she composed herself, I pressed further, asking about the father of the child. Through her tears, she confessed, you are the father. I did not accept this and insisted, Lisa, please don't do this to me. Finally, she broke the silence and said, I am so sorry. John the First was unfaithful, but I want you to be the father of the baby. I ignored her plea and reluctantly repeated my question, who is the father? She admitted that her ex of over 5 years had come to town 8 months ago, and they had a brief encounter in our apartment. I stood up and walked over to the window, looking down at the traffic below. Lisa anxiously asked if our relationship was over. I informed her that it was, as I could not fathom trusting her again. She burst into tears, begging for another chance, but I firmly stated that it was not possible. I insisted that she must inform our parents of this situation immediately. Lisa begged me not to tell them. Firmly, I told her, Lisa, you must do this. I told her, Lisa, you have to do this now, because you will not be coming back to our apartment when you and the baby are discharged tomorrow. She tearfully pleaded with me again, but I just repeated no and went outside to get our parents. As we entered the room, Lisa's father noticed her tear-stained face and inquired what was wrong. I asked everyone to sit down, which they did. Then I instructed Lisa to tell them what we had just discussed. Overwhelmed with emotion, she burst into tears and could not speak. I continued to explain the situation to our parents, and all 3 of them began to cry. I informed Lisa's parents that when she was discharged the next day, she would go home with them, and I would arrange for all of her personal belongings and the nursery we had prepared to be moved to their home. During this conversation, Lisa continued to cry uncontrollably. Then I turned to my mother and said, Mom, let go. Lisa cried, John, please don't leave me. I love you, and I am so sorry. With that, we walked out the door, leaving her parents to comfort her. As we drove away from the hospital, Lisa called and pleaded, please, John, don't end our relationship like this. I replied, Lisa, I didn't end our relationship. You did. I continued. The trust we had is broken forever, and the person I knew and loved is gone. In spite of her continued pleas, I remained silent and finally told her there was nothing more to say. Before hanging up the next morning, her father drove up in his van, and we loaded all of Lisa's belongings in the nursery into the back. I accompanied him to her house. I helped unload and set up the nursery in one of their spare bedrooms. I was devastated. Lisa's mother asked if there was any way I could reconsider and give her daughter another chance. I politely explained that was not possible because I could never trust Lisa again, and I would never be able to love the child that was conceived by another man. With that, her father drove me back home, where I spent the next day crying my eyes out. Over the next week, Lisa reached out to me, relentlessly making over 100 calls and sending numerous texts. She professed her love and asked for another chance. At first, she understood my reluctance to marry her and become the father of her child. Instead, she suggested that we continue to date as we were before. I chose not to respond, and eventually the messages stopped. This has undoubtedly been the most challenging period of my life. Although I have no intention of being a part of Lisa's or her son's life, I do entertain the thought of meeting him for a beer when he turns 21. It can save you a lot of wasted time and heartache in the long run.